Hey everybody, it's Robb Ryerse, Mike Papacoda. We are the Bowtie Sales Guys, and we are here this morning on another kind of beautiful spring morning here in Northwest Arkansas to say hello and to talk to you about sales and to encourage you, to equip you, to help you be a better salesperson, no matter what kind of sales you do, whether it's outside sales, retail sales, media, real estate, insurance, financial. I mean, there's like unending possibilities of what you could be selling, but there are a number of principles and ideas that work across disciplines, across platforms, that no matter what your product is, these are things that can help. And Mike and I are taking our 30 plus years of experience in sales to help you out, to be your teammate on the sales journey. Mike, how are you doing this morning?
I am good, Rob. I know you said it's a beautiful day up there today, but I can't believe it was actually snowing 2 days ago in Northwest Arkansas in the middle of April.
Absolutely insane.
Just some crazy weather, but yeah, it's going to be, I think, a nice couple of days. There may be a little rain here and there, but yeah, I'm doing well. Excited to be back. Another great episode for sure.
Yeah. So what we like to do each week is share with you kind of a big idea, something that we have experienced and learned from, and we're going to talk about that. And then we also like to share with you a tip that you can put into practice today. That, you know, on this day, whether you're watching live on Facebook or you're listening on Apple Podcasts or Spotify or any of the other podcast platforms, something that whatever day it is, you can put this into practice today, and it can help make a difference in you being the salesperson that you want to be. And so that's our plan. So glad that you're along for the ride with us. If you want to check us out on Facebook, we've got a little Facebook group there that you can like the page and give us a thumbs up. We'd appreciate that. Throw us any questions you might have, any topics you'd want us to cover, anything like that. We're totally open to that. We'd love to hear from you. Mike, are you ready to go to talk about our big idea for today?
Rob, I'm ready. Let's get to it.
Absolutely. So here is our big idea. Our big idea is that people knowledge is as important as product knowledge. Mike, one of the best kind of analogies for sales that I have ever heard was from Wilson Sales Training. And they talk about how sales is a little bit like riding a bike. And one of the kind of the metaphor, the analogy that they use is that if you're going to ride a bike, you have both the front tire and the back tire. And the back tire is the thing that drives you, that it's the engine that goes, but the front tire is the thing that gives you direction. It sets the course for where you're headed. And they use this analogy that the back tire is like product knowledge. It's knowing about your product. It's knowing about your systems. It's knowing about kind of the ins and outs, the features and benefits and all of those kinds of things. It's being able to use your CRM system well, all like everything, all the nuts and bolts of doing the job and of being a salesperson and knowing all about your product. That's the back wheel. The front wheel is people knowledge. It's the ability to understand who you're talking to, where they're coming from, what they think, what they're feeling, and being able to navigate those things. And good salespeople are people that have both people knowledge and product knowledge. They're salespeople that are able to navigate both of these. Mike, have you ever met a salesperson that, like, man, they know their product inside and out, but you just don't want to spend any time with them at all because of how they interact?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, there are some. I've worked with a couple that just they know the product better than anyone, and they can explain it to you, and they can tell you what the benefits are and how it's going to help you. But when it came to getting in front of people and having that conversation, it was so awkward and so uncomfortable because they just didn't have, that recognition, that self recognition to realize that, hey, you're losing this person. It doesn't matter at this point about the product. That person's not listening to you anymore. They've tuned you out. They moved on to something else, and you're trying to plow forward on somebody that's not listening. And yeah, those are very uncomfortable when you're there and you're sitting in and you're watching it happen. You're like, I just want to jump in here and save this. But, at the time I was in sales leadership, and you're like, all right, we're going to have to let you go through this, and then we'll talk about it when you're done.
Yeah, absolutely. Having both of these things is so critical. And I think probably a lot of salespeople, they probably put a lot of their focus, a lot of their energy into learning their product and crafting how they're going to do the sale and, all of that kind of stuff. That's what they're studying, when they're putting their sales pitch deck together, they're working on all of that kind of thing. And I think probably a lot of salespeople just assume that the front wheel stuff, the people knowledge, the soft skills is just a personality thing that comes naturally to some people. And they don't put a lot of intentional work into getting better at the people knowledge side of things, the front wheel skills. Mike, do you think that people knowledge and the ability to work well in a relationship, is that something that comes naturally, or is that a skill that can be developed?
I think there are some people that have a natural talent for it, but that's just like any athlete. Some athletes have natural talent. They can hit the ball further, they can throw it further, they can run faster. But those are the people that you find probably work the hardest to continually improve. They take that natural ability and they just add on more learnings and personal development to where it gets to a point where they're just better than everyone else. And I think it's the same thing with salespeople. There are some that are just natural they'll make it just on that natural ability, but if they work on developing it, they will be superstars. And then there are people that don't have it as a natural ability, but I do believe that it can be taught. You can teach somebody to look for different signs about people, whether it's body language or listening to their words or just facial expressions. It can be taught, but yeah.
Yeah. All right, so let's talk about some of the examples of this kind of people knowledge that is so critical. Like, let's talk about some of these front wheel skills that can be developed. Some people do these things very naturally, but whether they come natural to you or not, these are things that can be developed and need to be developed and need to be improved on. Just as you get better at understanding your product so you can sell it better, you got to understand your customer too. And that's what this is all about. So one of the things you just mentioned it, Mike, is body language. You imagine the scenario. You get the meeting set, you do your research, you're excited about the opportunity because for your prospect, because you fully believe that this is the solution they need. You sit down in their office. You jump right into your questions and your presentations. But before too long, you just have this kind of nagging sense. Maybe it's the voice in your head. Maybe it's the gut feeling. You just have this nagging sense that they're not with you anymore. They keep checking their phone. They seem distracted. They look bored. What went wrong? It's one of those things that I think we've probably all been there. Here's what is so critical is that you have got to pay attention to the body language of the person that you're dealing with. And when it comes to body language, and so much of this, we're gonna kind of talk about is mirroring is such an important principle, such an important idea, that you take your cues from your customer, and as they are engaging in whatever kind of level, whatever kind of energy level or emotional dynamic that they're bringing to the meeting, you need to mirror that. You don't want to be out of sync. If they're super animated, you want to be like, super laid back. If they are really laid back, you don't want to be the crazy person, bouncing around the room. Being able to mirror their body language, paying attention to it, and following along, taking cues from them is so critical.
Yeah, absolutely, Rob. I mean, you nailed it. That initial, I love you talk about the initial feeling when you walk into the room, whether it's a conference room or even if it's a video conference. I mean, you really want to try to get a sense of that body language and how are they looking? Are they kind of sitting back, just kind of waiting for you? Are they leaning in? And then your awareness to be able to mirror those is going to be critical. And you need to be measuring that through every step of the process. You can't lose focus of your audience. No matter how much you want to push through and get through your presentation, you need to be checking back with your audience, because there may be a point where you're going to need to stop that presentation and address, hey, have I lost you? You don't have that same excitement that you had when we first talked about it. Is this solution so far not what you thought it was going to be? And you can only get that by making sure that you are really paying close attention to the person or the people, the audience that you're speaking to.
Yeah, and here's a little trick. I don't know if you know this, Mike, but did you know that I taught fourth grade for a year? I don't know.
All the years I've known you, I don't think you've ever mentioned that.
Yeah, I was a fourth grade teacher for a year, and
Wow.
And one of the tricks that I learned as a teacher that I took into sales with me is that when you have a classroom of fourth graders and you're beginning to lose them and they're getting louder and louder and louder, your initial instinct is to get loud too.
Yeah.
To try to get louder than them. One of the things that I learned as a teacher is that when the class was getting loud and I was beginning to lose them, I would try going the opposite way. And this is not to say the mirroring thing that we just talked about isn't true, because it is, but this was particularly to try to get their attention. I would go the opposite way and lower my voice and talk more softly. And it always had this impact of like these fourth graders were loud, and then they'd realize I was talking and they couldn't hear me, and they'd get quiet so they could hear me. And there's something about kind of doing that shocking thing that gets their attention, that grabs their attention, and that might be something that you could try in a sales meeting. I have done this where someone seems like they are kind of losing interest, or they're a little bit distracted, or maybe they, keep glancing at their computer, and I'm not sure if they're, tracking with me. I'll just begin to lower my voice a little bit, and all of it, like that change, pops them back in. They want to see what's going on. And that's just, something that you can use, as well as your posture. You can use your posture to lead a meeting. When you've got a big point, you lean in. You sit on the edge of your seat, you smile, you speak with confidence, maybe even you stand up. That can be a powerful thing in a meeting. Body language is tremendously important in how we communicate and how we influence one another.
Yeah, absolutely. And I love some of the tips you gave there. I'm a very animated speaker. That's just who I am when I'm passionate about something and excited about something. I use my hands a lot. I move around in my seat a lot. And you'd be surprised that keeps people engaged. It keeps their attention. Outside of doing this podcast, I do a lot of sales training. All of it is virtually now, and it's so different than when we did it in person. And so being able to use my own body language to convey important points, to make sure that I'm keeping people's attention is very critical. And it's the same thing when you're presenting with your customers. You don't want to go at 100 miles an hour the entire time. There are points when you can tell that you, like you said, am I losing them? Maybe I need to lower my voice, or I want to make a point. I got to bring it in a little bit closer, and just using your body language to make a point is just as important as understanding your customer's body language.
Yep. So let's talk about listening skills. Most salespeople are good talkers, right? Like it seems like that's part of the job. It is also critical to be a good listener when it comes to sales. Being able to actually be present in the moment, listening to your client, listening to your customer, instead of thinking about the thing you're going to say next, actually interacting with what they're saying, not jumping ahead in your mind, but staying in the moment. Mike, what are some keys to being a good listener in a sales context that you've seen or you've observed or you've learned?
I mean, for me, what makes me a very good listener is when I'm taking notes. It forces me to really listen because I want to capture what they're saying. And as if I'm not taking notes, I do find myself wandering, my mind wandering, thinking about, like you said, what am I going to say next? How am I going to push this conversation forward? But when I've got that notepad in front of me, even if it's just a small one, and I'm writing down what they're saying, I'm really listening. And I let them know up front, hey, I'm going to take some notes, may break some eye contact here, but I really want to make sure I'm capturing what you're saying because I do need to see what I'm writing, but I don't want them to think that I'm not listening to them. So for me, a big way for me to continue and really be able to hear what they're saying is to take notes.
Yeah, that's a really great idea. So empathy is really key. Being able to kind of identify with your customer and understand what they care about and feel what they're feeling, imagining how they might feel in the particular moment and adjusting your approach to address those concerns. For instance, there's a number of sales situations, whether it's real estate or financial services, insurance. I mean, there's all sorts of things that are big purchases for people, and they feel like they're taking a risk when they are making this purchase. And how critical is it for a salesperson to understand how their customer is feeling in the moment that they're making a purchase decision?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's very critical. I mean, you brought up, buying a house, which is one of the single biggest purchases that anybody will ever make in their life. And making sure that you pick the right house for your family now, for your future needs. Am I getting a good deal in this house? Am I overpaying? Is it going to appreciate? Am I buying it at the top of market? How many things do I need to fix up? I mean, there's so many things involved in that particular purchase, but that goes with, if you're buying a car, maybe you're buying a car for one of your kids that just turned 16. I mean, there's a whole bunch of things that you're thinking about, safety and is this going to be a reliable car for them? So every sale is different in where that empathy needs to come from. But I like what you said, Rob. Put yourself in the place of that customer and try and think of what are some of the concerns they may have before you ever meet with them so that you're ready to address them before they bring them up. And listen, they may bring up something you've never thought of, and that's okay. But you want to have some answers prepared for them to help them feel better about this purchase. I mean, if you're somebody that works in the IT department and you're making a huge purchase on behalf of the company, you need it to work, right? If it doesn't work, it falls on your shoulders. That's a big expense that didn't work that you have to answer to. So if you're the rep, you want to make sure that they fully understand what it is that they're getting and how to address some of the concerns that they might have.
Yep. Yeah. It's maybe saying something like, when you sense that, when you see that worry, that concern, that anxiety on their face, saying something like, hey, I know if I was sitting on your side of the desk, I would be feeling overwhelmed by all of this. Maybe it sounds like this idea is like too good to be true, or this thing is never going to work. And, is that the case? Maybe, trying to put yourself in their shoes and expressing that and asking, is this the thing that's bothering you? And seeing where the conversation goes so you can address whatever it is that is concerning them. But if you're just kind of, blowing through without any empathy, you're never going to realize kind of the angst or the anxiety that they may be feeling.
Yeah, I mean, despite us being salespeople and having to sell a product, we're also all consumers, and so we can relate to being on the other side of the table, to have somebody presenting us with an option for a problem that we have, or a product that's going to help solve a problem, but sitting there wondering, am I making the right decision? Is this something I want to do right now? Is this the best price? Is this product really going to meet my needs? Am I getting scammed? I mean, there's so many things, right, that go through your head that you're like, all right, I need to really make sure that as the salesperson that I'm thinking about that. Like I know you just got a new roof. We met with a roofing guy last night who's going to put on a roof for us. And just thinking about a lot of the questions that I had, he contacted me on Facebook, which I appreciate. He's trying to build his business. He provided me with references so that I could call them and make sure that, he had done good work. But even as we're sitting there signing the contract, getting ready to hand over half the payment for the work, I'm like, boy, I sure hope this isn't a scam. I hope he's not just going to run off with that check and I never see a shingle get put on the house. And so as a salesperson, you just need to think about the times when you were a consumer and when you made those purchases and what were the emotions and the feelings that you had, because chances are your customers probably having those same emotions.
Yep. Yep. So one more thing is the idea of motivation. And this is a really tricky one. This feels like almost kind of like a next level thing when it comes to kind of the people skills. But one of the people skills, one of the people knowledge things that you need is the ability to recognize and intuit what is motivating your customer. We talked about this in previous podcasts when we talked about connecting the dots, and we talked about the solar guy, the solar panel salesman who just totally missed what was motivating me and my wife, and missed out on a sale as a result of that. But understanding what's motivating somebody, is it saving money? Is it making more money? Is it, increasing revenue, reducing cost? Is it making things easier, streamlining processes? But there's also kind of like personal motivations that people have that, like, do they want to look good to their boss? Do they, do they want to be kind of cutting edge and seen as innovative in some way? Are they trying to just be a good team member? Those kind of individual motivations also come into play on why people buy and why they don't. You use that IT solution example a minute ago, Mike, but you think about, okay, it's not like that person's making a decision for their company, making a big purchase for their company about some IT solution. But then what is that person like? Are they an innovative person who, always wants the cutting edge thing? Are they, someone who's very concerned about what their team feels like and looking good to that group of people? Are they a bit of a maverick that they don't care? And how you frame up your solution, your product for them is going to be dependent on what their personality is, what their motivation is. If you come into someone saying, hey, listen, you go with this, you're going to be cutting edge, you're going to be out there, a leader in your field, and you're talking to someone who is like very maybe introverted, very team focused, like you're going to scare them off,
Right.
and simply by saying, hey, because they don't want to be innovative. They don't want to be out there on their own cutting edge. You've got to understand, what is this person all about, and then cater your solution to that, understanding their motivation. It's tricky, and it takes time, it takes relationship, but it can make a big difference in making a sale.
Yeah, Rob, I think back to when we were working together in media sales, and we were approaching a lot of these Fortune 500 companies that were suppliers to Walmart and presenting them with, really big ideas, which they love the ideas. But, the more time we spent in that world, the more we started to understand the motivation, right? I mean, they need to be seen in the community, right? Walmart wants to see that they're involved, but at the same time, they need to make sure that they're keeping those costs down. And so really understanding that, and I know everybody won't experience that, but we really had to understand their position. And the only way that we were able to understand that is to spend time with them and talk to them and ask questions and take little pieces from all the meetings we had and put them together and say, okay, this seems to be the main motivation for this group of people. And I think you can do that in any business. Take little segments of your interactions with customers and say, okay, people that are in this space typically are motivated by this. Now, it's going to be different based on their personality, but I think there will be some similarities in that thread that's going to run through, where you can draw some conclusions on, here's what I think their motivation is going to be. And it's the same thing if you're selling cars, what is that motivation for somebody who's coming onto the lot? Maybe this is their first brand new car, and they're just so excited because they can't wait for everyone to talk about, oh, I love your new car, or maybe it has nothing to do with buying a brand new car. It's just finally being able to have a reliable car that's going to be able to take care of their family. But you only find that out by asking questions and really listening. And it goes back to what you said earlier, that active listening is so critical, because it will provide you with the information you need to find out what that motivation is, so that you can help them to move forward and feel comfortable in that purchase.
Yep. People knowledge is as important as product knowledge, and there's no end to learning about people. Like, this is for a salesperson, there's no like, okay, I've got people figured out, no problem. Like, this is an unending process. And we want to encourage everybody today, like, listen, if you're going to be good at sales, you've got to be good, not just with your product, but with people as well.
Absolutely. And listen, people are different today than they were a year and a half ago. Right.
Yeah.
I mean, they're very different. Things have changed. And so you have to change and adapt and learn the new economy, learn the new customer, because the customers of the 60s and 70s, 80s, 90s, different customers now.
Yeah. So our tip for today, something that you can put into practice right now, kind of goes along with this, and being kind of a lifelong learner, to use another education phrase, which apparently I can do because I taught fourth grade for a year. One of the things that Mike, that you and I have both used at times is an app called Blinkist, and Blinkist is great. It's a great little app that what it is essentially, it is like an audiobook Cliff Notes for books, bestsellers, things that are out there, and it's subscription based, where you can pay a few dollars a month and have a full subscription to their whole library of books. And what it does is it gives you the opportunity to kind of get a sense of what a book's all about, get its big ideas, get some of its key stories, without having to invest, the 13 hours of listening to a book, on an audiobook on Audible or someplace else. It basically gives you the Cliff Notes version, and it's really great that way. Now, one of the cool things about Blinkist is that every day they give a free book of the day. So you don't have to have a subscription, but you could check Blinkist today and and find out, like, hey, is there a book there that is of interest to me? So today's free book is Why Don't We Learn from History by B.H. Liddell Hart. A book that I'm not familiar with, but that's the type of title that would kind of pique my interest, and I would be like, hey, I might want to check that out, and spend 15-20 minutes getting a sense of what this book is all about. And one of the really interesting things with Blinkist is that often the books that are included are books that help you understand people. They're books that give you tips about how to understand people, how to listen better, how to be more empathetic, all the things we've been talking about. Here is a quick, easy, free way to expand your knowledge of people without, investing a whole bunch of money and a whole bunch of time.
Yeah, it's a great app, Rob, definitely. And you were the one that turned me on to it. Very appreciative of that. I love Cliff Notes. I'm a person who really likes when things are to the point. I don't like things to drag out. So the quicker you can get me the information, the more compact that information is, the better it is going to fit my personality. Because I'm always just looking for one or two nuggets of things that I can implement in my own life to improve, to make it better. And Blinkist absolutely gives you the tools to be able to do that.
And listen, it's not the end. Like, if you check the app in the morning and it's not a book that interests you, don't sweat it.
Right.
That's okay. It's free.
There'll be another one tomorrow.
You can come back tomorrow, and it might be something that is ideal, and you might listen to the blinks, as they call them, the chapters, and you hear about the book and you go, oh, this is really interesting, I want to dive deeper. Buy the book and read the whole thing. Or you take those little nuggets and information that you get, and you incorporate that into your sales process, and you get better at being a salesperson, which is what this is all about.
Absolutely. Or you could be like me and I think I have 8 Audible credits now that I have not used. I'm like, I really need to get on that and start listening to some books. So listen to Blinkist, find a book you like, and then go get it on Audible.
Yeah, excellent. I think I'm the opposite way. I use my Audible credits, and then the books sit there on my shelf unlistened to.
There you
So
go.
I've got big ideas of like, hey, I tackle this. Good stuff. Mike, so great to chat with you today. Hopefully, this is valuable and interesting content for salespeople. If you've got any questions, find us on Facebook, and the Bowtie Sales Guy Facebook page is probably the easiest way to get a hold of us. Give us a like, give us a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts or Spotify or Google Play or any of the places that you listen to us. And we look forward to chatting with you again next week about how to be a better salesperson. Mike, any final words for the folks?
Man, just keep on getting better. I love the tip today, Rob. Blinkist. I mean, it's one thing that's just, if you do that one thing a day, you get just 1% better. I mean, that 1% can make a huge difference. So glad everybody was listening and hope they found it helpful.